Yes, this is Bill Jones again. Bill Jones from Freedom's Nest. Freedom's Nest, of course, is located, if you've heard me before, it's located at recapturefederalism.com. Recapturefederalism.com. We have another presentation today, and the subject and title of this is The Two Political Parties, Treason, Sedition, and Subversion. And another controversial title. They all are. With what I deal with as being an anti-communist, they all are. I've said that before. I'll say it again. And before I go any farther, you know what I'm going to do. That's right. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. So help me God. I, of course, say that because the first time I took that oath was in 1965 when I joined the United States Navy. The enemy then, as it is now, was communism, the biggest threat to America. And it is a lethal threat. I've gone into that in the past, and I'm sure I'll go into it again in the future. Because communism has a historical experience of having killing fields, internments, resettlements, slavery, enslavement, prison camps, political prison camps, on and on and on. I can give you examples of that. Since 1848, there's a lot of examples. But we'll go on. We'll go to our subject today. The two political parties. By the way, the two political parties, before I go any further, in relationship to the two political parties, of course, have no legal basis or authority to govern. What, Bill? They've been around for so long. Yeah, they've been around. They've been illegitimate for a long time. And they do not have a legal basis or authority to operate and govern in the United States. I've gone into that in some depth in the past and will in the future, but I'll just leave it at that for right now. And because they meet the definition of the criminal enterprise, they are criminals. They operate as a criminal enterprise, and that's what they are. And that leads you right into the subject of today, into treason. And I've gone over and over again, and I continue to do that. They have no legal authority to operate, yet they do operate. And when they do operate, they don't operate properly. And you get involved in Article 3, Section 3, and I've gone into the definitions in there in Article 3, Section 3. But I'm just going to go right in the relationship between the two political parties and Title 18 U.S.C. Chapter 115, Treason, Sedition, and Subversive Activities. From Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedure, Part 1, Crimes. And as I said in the past, there's 9 sections. Used to be 10. 2391 was repealed some time ago. The basis of these was from 1909. And where's the subversion come? Communism. Man, no, everybody thinks communism's gone. The wall came down and it disappeared. It hasn't disappeared anywhere. But if you listen to the political parties, in my next presentation, the party press, the next presentation I will have will be about the party press in the subject we're talking about today. But I'm just going to key in on the parties. If you were to hear and listen to the press and the parties and the party press is just echoing the parties. The parties, they're the public relations firms for the parties. And so what do the parties say? Well, the Constitution's irrelevant, separation of church and state, all those communist ideas. And you, if you would hear these parties, well, there is no communism anymore. The screenwriters and that, they're long gone. They're dead. There's nothing around. Because, that crazy guy, Senator Joe McCarthy, that Republican senator from Wisconsin, he was crazy talking about all these communists everywhere. Wake up, America. Senator Joe McCarthy was right on the money. They did what communists do to people who tell the truth about communism. They do character assassinations. And who did the character assassinations? Well, the echoes came from the party press, and they were told to say certain things from the parties. Both parties, they working together. It's a conspiracy. By the way, not a theory, a conspiracy. There is no such thing as a conspiracy theory. I've told you this before. There's either a conspiracy or there's not a conspiracy, depending upon the evidence. And as I've showed you in the past, there's plenty of evidence all over. So you have the two parties working together, back and forth. Yeah, that's their intention. They adhere to communism and the Communist Manifesto. They're working together. There's a conspiracy together, and it's treason. If it was just one person committing treason, the individual, it's 2381, treason. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to the enemies. Okay? We can go on to what the rest of it says, giving aid and comfort. That's the three-prong Article 3, Section 3, the definition, as I've said in the past. So that's one person. Then you go to sedition or seditious conspiracy, which is 2384. There's a couple in between. I'll get into that. Because how they do it is the conspiracy are some of these other things. Seditious conspiracy. And I'm going to read the whole thing, but the big part of this, and when I get to it, is about hindering of the supreme laws of the land. It's happening today. It's happening at this point in time. It's happening 24/7, 365, and we get an additional day of sedition every 4 years leap year. It's happening all the time because that's how far we've gotten along. And if you're waiting for one of the branches of the federal government or any of the states to step in, you're more likely to get the states to step in and do something. But if you're waiting for Congress, or if you're waiting for the executive branch or the judiciary, forget it. Forget about it. Okay? Because you're not going to get any help from them at all. Why would they do anything? They're profiteering and they're racketeering and making profits from treason. It's a good business. It's a profitable business. You just ask any banker. You just ask any CEO of big companies. You can just ask any of the press people who are, they're making profits too. They're doing very well, thank you. They're all together. They're all in bed together. They don't stand up against any of this. There's honor among thieves, and there's honor among those that are corrupt, because that's the corrupt system. That's the world Isn't that what you learn in the Bible? The world is corrupt. It's just a corrupt place. Some places they use the term world in place of corrupt or corruption. Some places in the Bible. Yeah, but let's read it. If two or more persons, so this is where you get the treason, there's got people committing treason together. Two or more persons in any state or territory, or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or pose by force the authority thereof, or the force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fined under the title or imprisoned not more than 20 years, or both. The key one here, and then, it's all key, and they do on all levels, but the one they significantly do, and this is where Congress doesn't do anything, the president does not faithfully execute, he does not follow his oath, he's committing perjury. And then he turns around and he, by force, to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution on any law of the United States. Now there you go. The President of the United States takes an oath to faithfully execute laws. He's supposed to be doing that. There's laws, and he's not, and Obama's not the first one. This goes way back. He disguises, for instance, unemployment. That's nothing new. In fact, he learned that from his father. Other people learned it from his father because they've been doing it for 40 years. That's hindering the laws. That's hindering laws. It's misinformation, misrepresentation, and that's what you have. Congress hinders every day. They hinder and delay execution of any law. Down on the border, they passed a law in 1986. 1986. How long ago was that? Long time. They haven't executed this law, and they passed that law because they weren't executing the previous law from the 70s. The revolutionary movement. No, they keep doing that. They don't want to execute any laws. They don't want to pass any new laws. And they're not going to follow the laws now. And the president's going to make an executive order saying that he's not going to follow it. And Congress, of course, has an obligation. They have an obligation to take action against him. He is committed perjury. He's flat come out and said, I'm going to violate the law. I'm going to violate my oath. I'm going to commit treason. All these people are confessing to treason by their behavior. They have an obligation, the Congress has an obligation, the House has an obligation to charge the President of the United States. That's their job. If the President's doing something wrong. Now, they also have a job in the judiciary. These judges are allowed, the federal judges are allowed to sit for a term of life as long as they're committing good behavior. What if they're committing treason? The Congress obligated to get rid of them. But why would they do that? Because they are all in bed together. It's an incestuous relationship between all three branches. There's no separation of power. None at all. The federal judges are products of a criminal enterprise. Enterprise is, there's two of them. They're all working together. There's committing the racketeering, just loving all on this. Just lying and deceit. Come on. Like that's something new? What was President Clinton convicted of? Perjury. He's a liar and deceit, and yet he's a great hero among many people. No, no, no. We don't have any action by honorable people. Why would you? There's no honorable people there. There's no honorable people there. Just dishonorable people. And if you're waiting for them, you're going to have a long wait. Now, what can you do about this, Bill? Now, what can you do? Can we do anything? It's hard. In the Constitution of the United States, First Amendment, there's 5 areas, major areas of freedoms. And one of those freedoms is to petition the redress of grievances of those of the representatives, those representing the government. We are unique. The exceptionalism of the United States, and you'll hear from other people say all sorts of things about what's exceptional. This is what's exceptional about it. The only place in the world where specifically where a republic, a compound republican at that, with republican principles, which makes the government the people. Okay? That's the exception. That's the uniqueness of America. The government is the people. If you listen to these politicians, I was going to say crooked politicians, but that'd be oxymoron, wouldn't it? So you listen to these politicians, you would think they're the government. No, there is the governed and those that do the governing. And as I said earlier, they're illegitimate. They have no authority to govern as a party. And that is a relationship to Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States, which says, they don't say anything about any parties there. It's about representatives, about senators and representatives, about the executive branch, about the judges and all that. Supremacy clause, and then the religion clause based upon the oath. These dudes are violating their oath 24/7, 365, plus every 4 years an extra day. The American public and the government of the government, which is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Yeah, they get an extra day of screwing every 4 years, and that's what we're getting. So you have this petitioning. There's 4 types of petitioning. 4 types. How you can redress. 1, you can pray. Talk to the good Lord. I recommend that. That's good. You want to do that as much as you can. And you'll get help because that's where the authority comes for governing. That's where the idea of good comes from, creation. Go to the Holy Bible, you can find all about evil, and that's where you get bad government. And we got a lot of evil people running around in Washington, D.C. and other places. Another petition, you can get your list together and say, yeah, do you please, your demands, asking things and what have you. And a bunch of people sign their name to it. Of course, that one is irrelevant, isn't it? Because they're not forced to even listen to it or look to it. They can ignore those things, and they do quite a bit. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stop from doing that. That should be used in conjunction with the praying and the 3rd and the 4th types of petitions. The 3rd type of petition is a civil complaint. Petitioning the courts is civil complaint, suing somebody for something in the civil court that you've been wronged. And this is my suggestion to every citizen in the United States. Get yourself an honest lawyer if you can find them, and sue for a significant amount of money for the loss of your basic human rights by the 2 political parties, and you want to be made whole by that financially, and you want to sue the Democrat Party and the Republican Party at all levels for your loss of your basic human rights. And if you're head of the household, you also want to do it for your children and your grandchildren, that they have been damaged and you want to be made whole financially. Could you imagine lawsuit? And you want to sue not only those parties, but those who have been financially supporting the criminal enterprises. Then there's the fourth type, used in conjunction with the third. The fourth type is a criminal complaint you want to file. Your basic human rights have been violated. You are a victim of corrupt politicians who have, and if you're Christian or Jewish, you have been religiously persecuted. That is a hate crime, and there are plenty of laws about hate crimes and religious persecution. Different states, different ways to do things. You go into your place, you want to file a criminal complaint against the political parties, and if you can prove on individuals, and which you probably can, it's pretty easy. I heard a Judge Janine on Fox, it was a sedition, and it's hard to prove. Are you kidding me? You just listen to me. I'll tell you all the things how you can prove it, and you can do that. Now, there's other sections in here advocating the overthrow of government, and when I do the press thing, I'm going to get deeply into that one. There's other ones, rebellion and insurrection. I've gone over this in the past. We're presently involved in a silent, secret American insurrection and revolutionary movement. It started in depth in the 60s and is still going on. That's part of it. That's part of the seditious conspiracy. They're all working together. By law, and there's law that I'm mentioning, there's misprision of treason, which is maladmission of misprision is a legal term, and the legal definition is maladministration of public duty. And people are supposed to. Now these criminals aren't going to say, "Hey, I'm violating the law." No. You have a right. If you're aware that they're committing treason, you have an obligation to go to the courts and the executive branches of the state governments. Then there's several of them, registration of certain organizations, which I'm not going to get into. You can read that. I suggest you read these. Then we have several sections where there's activities affecting the armed forces generally, and during war and what have you. That's why I'm surprised. This soldier who left his post in Afghanistan, why isn't he being charged? Section 2388, activities affecting the armed forces during war. He walked off his post. Way back in the 60s when I was in the Navy, we were told about that in boot camp. Man, you don't want to do that. You don't want to leave and go AWOL in the time of war and leave your unit. That's treason. That is treason. And recruiting service, we got these people, they're flocking over there over the ISIL. That's treason also. 2389, recruiting for service against the United States. When was the last time? People act like this thing doesn't exist. These are all things that happen. That's why I could never understand why Jane Fonda was never charged, why John Kerry was never charged. They acted against the military during the time of war. No, they turned their heads. They turned their heads. The criminals turned their heads against other criminals. It's been happening since the first sun came up. Since there was light, and light was good. And the opposite of light is darkness. And there's people operating on the dark side all over Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. Till next time, good day.